Kevin Hayes has been an interesting and unusual player over the course of his NHL career. He's trying, or he says he's trying, to resuscitate that career in Pittsburgh. I'm skeptical. Good morning to you. Good Wednesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports, and this is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday if you're into football and/or baseball. I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates in the same place that you found this. Hayes met virtually with the local media yesterday, speaking for the first time since that odd trade that Kyle Dubas made with the Blues. That was basically the purchase of a second-round pick in order for the Penguins to agree to take on Hayes' remainder of his contract. He was not loved in St. Louis. Before that, he was not loved in Philadelphia. Even though, with the Flyers, a couple of seasons ago, he was an all-star. He put up 54 points. That was a career high on 18 goals and 36 assists. Missed only one game in the regular season. Then he went to St. Louis, and that 54-point total dropped all the way down to 29 on 13 goals and 16 assists. It got so bad, in fact, with the Blues, that he was called out by Drew Bannister, the head coach, in saying of Hayes, "We need more from him." John Tortorella had spoken similarly of Hayes in Philadelphia, in fact, making him a healthy scratch and then having one of those classic Tortorella press conferences with that city's media in which he really didn't want to talk about it anymore, but by making it happen, he said all he needed to say. Hayes being 32 years old, and when I say that he's unusual as a hockey player, what I mean by that is that he's always looked a little old, in the sense that he's a really stand all the way up type of skater. It just has an unusual look to it, and it definitely doesn't have a fast look to it. So when he makes plays, he makes them from I'll say it again, kind of like a stand-up stance. If you think about the one season that Brian Boyle spent in Pittsburgh, think of that. Boyle would do a lot of that as well. But then Boyle was actually a hit in that one season that he had with the Penguins, and Hayes is hoping for the same.
Yeah, I mean, 2 years ago in Philly, I had a great start to the season. I was an all-star that year, and then the end of the season didn't really go as well. And I felt like last year I couldn't really find a role in St. Louis and didn't play my best hockey. So eager to get the season started to kind of show that I can still play in this league and be part of a winning team. I haven't fully really talked to the coaches about a specific role. They have some great players in this lineup, so no matter who I'm playing with, I'm going to be excited. I still think I can produce in this league, and I want to show that to my teammates and the coaching staff. But I don't think I'll be talking roles up until training camp starts, to be honest.
Obviously, everybody involved will hope that he's right. We'll hope that he makes a fine fit with the Penguins and that he can handle a bottom six center's role, that he can handle all the draws that he's used to handling, and that he can handle all the penalty killing that he'd handled really over the majority of his NHL career until the Blues, for whatever reason, decided they didn't want to use him in that way. This episode is brought to you by Bet Online, your number one source for all your summer sports needs this season, from Major League Baseball, golf, NHL, NBA playoffs. Get the latest odds and lines, including all team matchups, player props, odds on just about everything that's out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. Here's what I don't want to see, and boy, do I not have a good way to tell you this without sounding spectacularly biased, but you know what? I don't care. There is no way Hayes should open up training camp, much less the season, as some sort of default number 3 center ahead of Lars Eller. That would make no sense. Not in any capacity. Not on the rink, not off the rink, where nobody has ever questioned Eller's want to or character. And on the rink, Eller has remained a productive, if not necessarily prolific, offensive player while also assuming all kinds of defensive zone starts, while also taking on every winger in the system, it seems. At some point in his first season in Pittsburgh, never complaining about it, constantly working with those guys as if he'd been with them all along and trying to make the best of every situation. Now, while I understand that line charts don't mean as much in hockey as what a lot of people make out, and that's true, that tends to get overblown, I also understand that the difference between a 3 center and a 4 center means an awful lot in terms of offensive freedom for the 3 center. And I'm sorry, I'm not about to hand any kind of role to anybody who's coming off the couple of years that Hayes is coming off. He'd have to show me a lot, including that he could swallow a lot of pride in being a 4th-line guy. Put him out there with, I don't know, Blake Lizotte, Sam Poulin, Nola Chari, whatever it is, and give Eller some wingers that might make a difference. Like, let's say, for example, Jesse Puljujarvi, who I've been talking about quite a bit over the past week. Valtteri Puustinen, if he were to show up at camp determined to shoot the puck more often. That's the kind of 3rd line that I want to see. Let the other guys grind it out. Let them figure it out. Let Hayes figure out what went wrong over the past couple of years. And let Hayes show all of that without anybody's help. When we come back, J1Q. Today's J1Q comes from DW, who says, DK, do you think that Sidney Crosby could be doing a disservice to himself as an extremely competitive hockey player by not chasing a Stanley Cup elsewhere? I hope he's not just sticking around Pittsburgh because he feels obligated. He owes us nothing. I just want to see him go out on top these last few years. He deserves everything the game can still offer him. It's time that the game repays him for all he's done and not the other way around. You know, when you brought up in your question there the sense of Sid sticking around because he feels obligated, that was the way you phrased it. My first thought was that he would feel obligated to staying with the Penguins or staying with one team, because that also is a real point of pride, even for the greatest players, sometimes especially for the greatest players. Instead, you went with he owes us nothing, as if he would stay here on behalf of the fans or something to that extent. I don't know how to say this. Even the most virtuous of professional athletes, and I would certainly think Sid fits real well into that category, aren't going to make decisions based on fans or fandom. They're just not. I don't want to break that bubble in your life or whatever, but that's just not how it happens. What Sid would want in this scenario, I think there are two things. The first is what I had just mentioned about staying with one team, about being associated forever with one franchise and the good that you did there. On the ice, off the ice, everything. Sid's legacy is inexorably linked to the city of Pittsburgh. That would happen even if he finished somewhere else, but it is 87 times truer, okay? If he's only ever here. He knows that. He's aware of it. The people around him know that. They're aware of it. The agency that represents him out of Canada knows that and is aware of it. But where the reconciliation has to come here is number two, and that is that he unquestionably would love to win another Stanley Cup. Would he want to do it? And I say this with respect in a cheesy Ray Bork kind of way. Nobody could have liked that. Nobody. I'm sorry. I just thought that was so awkward. He'd been such a brilliant player for 2 decades in Boston. He's just about to hang it up, and they're like, well, send him to the Avs. They're loaded. And he goes to the Avs, wins it all, raises the cup, and he's done. No, okay? No. So what Sid really wants is to have the best of those 2 worlds. He wants to have the legacy in Pittsburgh because of his genuine feelings for the franchise, for the city, for the fans, and everything else. And when I say the fans, I'm referring to the relationships, the value of those that becomes part of the cumulative legacy as opposed to doing it for the fans. And he wants to win. He wants to have his best possible chance to win. Realistically, that would come within 3 years, as in if it comes at all, because that's the likely length of this contract extension. That's the likely length of the remainder of his brilliant career. To my mind, as I look at this roster right now, I'd have no reason to say to anybody with a straight face that this is some sort of Stanley Cup contender. There are a couple of little pieces and parts that appear to be better than they were this time a year ago, but you don't look at this roster. Well, I don't look at this roster, I should say, and say, wow, this is one whale of an upgrade here. Where? How? More work needs to be done. That work needs to be done by Kyle Dubas. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Penguins, and we're going to do another one of these tomorrow.